Need a presenter? Your Event Audio has you covered. Closed-circuit audio equipment with turnkey operation at your trade show booth, live event, or private event. YourEventAudio.com is the place to go. DJ services, MC talent, and a whole lot more. Check out YourEventAudio.com today.
Craving ideas to ignite your face-to-face marketing program? Join us at EXHIBITOR Live, the conference and exhibition for trade show and corporate event marketers in Nashville, February the 25th through the 28th. Dive into over 100 electrifying sessions and workshops led by industry rock stars, where you'll learn to skyrocket your ROI, master the art of creating experiences, and forge connections that will take your program and your career to the next level. Secure your spot now and turn your trade show dreams into reality at EXHIBITORLive.com.
Well, it's great news. If you didn't know, the blimp is back in the air and is hovering over CES as we speak on the final day of CES. That's good news. And there's other great news to share with you on this week's show, Exhibitor Now podcast. I'm Mike Morrison, National Sales Director for WS Display, co-host of the show. As you can see there, Mark Johnson joins me now from Las Vegas in his home office and is the owner of the Exhibitor Group. Y'all, it's been, I'm pretty sure, a great week. I've watched the social media, everybody reporting from Las Vegas, the convention center, and all of the other ancillary locations where CES happens. And it's just like what we forecasted last week and what we heard last week, Mark, about AI, flying cars, and all the other technologies that dominate that show every year. But this year seems to be record setting and a lot of things going on.
Yeah, I really experienced it, firsthand with even day one when the show opened. It's always a buzz, but it doesn't seem to have let down. The number of people you're getting banged into. So there's no mask, there's no fear of interaction anymore. Again, we talked about it again with the interview they'll hear with Emily, but people trying on glasses and going right from one person to the next. Everything is moving flow here, and as you said with the blimp, it was a surprise. I haven't seen the Goodyear blimp for years, and to have it over CES, they're actually coming out with some innovation everywhere you turn, and now even in tires, there's some highlights with it. Show's doing well. I do think all of the things are well attended. Long lines to get into the activations everywhere across the city, and as I'm out in other meetings before and after, and the presence of CES badges are not just on the strip or nearby, they're way out in the suburbs out here. So it looks like people have had to stay at hotels further out than normal, maybe. So it looks good. Good show, good representation. We're excited about it. So.
Sure, the local economy really appreciates that to kick off 2024. As always, that show always kind of sets the tone for everything else that's coming down the line. One thing I did see in social media that someone posted this morning, maybe you could talk about this for a second. She showed that some snow came in overnight in parts of Las Vegas and in the valley, I guess you would say. Did you get any of that or anything around you?
We didn't hear at the convention center or right downtown, so I didn't actually see any snow, but it's been cool. So, there's frost warnings on the different golf courses and stuff like that, but it's not uncommon that you'll get that here. Henderson in the fall got a good inch or two of snow, and they canceled school so the kids could play a little bit. But, again, it's the desert. So if you're in Vegas this time of year, high 50s are a good day. But it can get down into the 30s at night. And if a cold front walks through at the same time, there's some moisture, you're going to get a little snow with it. But no weather issues here that slowed it down today. Not at the convention centers.
A lot like Georgia here. The only thing is we don't have cactus. But otherwise, speaking of snow, I'll go to my first bullet point. And if you've watched the weather in the Northeast, they're getting hammered right now. And they're expecting more. The announcement that winter storms are expected in the Northeast over the next several days, including next week in New York City, where they will start the NRF show, the National Retail Federation show. It's set to start once again next week, and that remains a looming concern. It was announced that by the way, I may reach a little deep on this one. I have this problem of trying to make symmetrical things come together, these ideas and thoughts. But here's what I read from NRF in an email I got. You may have seen the same thing, that over $743 billion was returned in retailers' products in 2023. And while this is an alarming amount, what got me thinking here, this symmetrical thing I'm talking about, was the breakdown in percentages between brick and mortar locations and online purchases. Now, if you take out the largest portion of returns, which is basically attributed to fraud, we know that's just part of society. There's a 2-to-1 ratio of online versus brick and mortar establishments. Now, here's my question, Mark. Is there a link between in-person business events, trade shows, and the like compared to online in this example, where people fare seemingly better with in-person purchases and are happy with their impersonal aspects of online versus that, or in some extent is it's less personal experience online versus the brick and mortar? Is there any symmetry there in your mind, or am I reaching too deep there?
Well, I don't know if you're doing too deep, but I do think that online is like an email. It's much more impersonal. You're not connected. You can be a little more rude. You can order 6 things, send it back. You don't really care. So that's one element of it. And in some cases, the other aspect of it is you can't do the testing online. You have to order and you have to return. Whereas if you're in the brick and mortar, you've got a little more customer service. You're getting a little more selected of what you're looking for, and hopefully you're coming out of there with your solution from that standpoint. And we're seeing some reports that brick and mortar is coming back really strong because they're providing some of that experiential. You have to do it different. You can't just show up and have the doors open and get it, but it's more of that customer service. It's more of that experience as you do it and really drive the customer to their solution. I think everybody wins if you go down that path.
And CES, obviously, a huge example of that, where people don't care. They're sharing air, they're sharing everything else. They want that in-person contact. And as you said in the interview that you're going to be hearing in just a few minutes, the numbers are probably most likely going to exceed what was expected or forecast for who and how many would show up for that. So, yeah, I that was my reach for that, and I tend to concur that yeah, it's coming back. It may come back in a different manner, but it is coming back. Big topic we talk about in our industry is sustainability and recycling. But in general, there was an article recently that Americans as a whole are falling short on this idea. They aren't doing nearly enough when it comes to recycling, particularly at home. Just over 20% of plastic, glass, cardboard, and paper is actually recycled, according to a report from the Recycling Partnership. Recycling's availability is a key issue, and after studying 9,000 collection programs in the U.S., the organization discovered that 85% of single-family homes had access to recycling, but the figure fell to 37% for multifamily homes, obviously apartments, townhouses, and the such. And not every state accepts recyclables. That's important. So the partnership says, idea, forcing package producers to pay fees for their waste could dramatically boost recycling. Now, obviously, that's consumer recycling versus our industry recycling. I get that. But knowing this fact about how bad we are doing this, apparently, on the scorecard for homes, what do you think is your opinion of so far in our industry, our efforts of recycling and sustainability?
From our industry, I think it is going to be taken very serious, and it has already started. Every association conference that I was at last year and rolling into the beginning of this year, that's a topic. And certification on the green efforts and going sustainable is going to continue to drive. We actually have a presentation on it at Live. There is a certification program we're going to continue to support. Our customers, our end customers, the corporate America, are going to have to do it. This is mandated as they go forward, especially the public traded companies. They're going to have to do so much for their carbon footprint as the years get closer and closer to those deadlines. And it's going to be forced downhill. If you want to be a partner or a vendor for any of those people, you're going to have to do this, is my belief. And I think there's some mind shift that's going to continue to develop in that area, because as an industry, we went down this path before. And as it got into it, the customers went, oh, it's cost more money. Sorry, we won't do it. This time it is no longer an option. Everything I see is it's going to be part of our industry. And it's a mindset that we have to change. And back to the individual stuff, we have to change that area of it. But my personal perspective is you had a lot of that recycling and you had those codes, and you've seen a lot of the reports that 60 Minutes and others have done of the misleading of that by some of the corporations, and this stuff of that isn't really recyclable. And I agree. I think, unfortunately, the real benefit, or I guess the real way to get the results, is you're going to have to put a cost in front of the companies that don't produce their products that are recyclable in enough of an area. And we're going to see it in our industry. If we don't respond to it, we are doing a lot as an industry to be proactive, all the different associations, because the last thing we want is government to come in and tell us what to do. We'd rather show up and say, hey, look, here's what we're doing to support this initiative. And I'm pleased to see what the different associations are doing on it. And at Exhibitor, we want to support that as much as we can.
It was an interesting article, and yeah, I've seen the same thing. It's just still some rebellion out there for some reason, especially at the consumer level. But yeah, maybe we can set an example from our industry standpoint. Finally, before we get into the play-by-play action, as I mentioned last week of CES, what was coming up in this week's show, there was an article I read this week. It was in Skift Meetings that was entitled, "Will Negative U.S. Consumer Sentiment Keep Event Budgets Low?" Now, we all know that inflation is killing anything with breath, legs, and movement. But this statement was a bit daunting when I read it from event strategist Nicola Kastner. Now, she estimates that the cost of events is roughly 30% higher now than it was in 2019. But marketing budgets have remained flat for years. Nicola Kastner, by the way, known as the event strategist, is a leading event guru in the event space now in 2024. She was quoted by saying, "We're essentially asked to do more with less." I've said this 100 times, Mark. Everybody comes to the table asking for a Cadillac with a Kia budget, for lack of analogies. Now, from the WS standpoint, that's good news for me, because at the end of the day, we're a cost aggressive offering in the industry, but still the challenge remains in the area of being ultra creative. In other words, Mark, I want shock and awe, wow and pow, everything for this small amount of investment. What are your ideas of that being doable?
You know, it is a constant battle, and I like your WS. We at Star, that was part of the reason we wanted to bring Featherlight into the table, because now we can handle any cost budget, you know, any parameters that they have, we can provide solutions for them. So that was one of the reasons that we really are excited about that. And the other thing we see is, it's like anything, if you give them that shock and awe and you really show them an opportunity, but it would cost this much more, a lot of times they're able to go find the money. But you got to get the ROI, and you got to be able to show them what the expectations are, what they're going to get for that, and then measure it and see if it comes into play. And then it'll roll into next year's budget. It goes forward. But in some cases, as we said, there's just some people who they're asking for the moon and they're not going to get it. You can't produce a certain size of exhibit for, you know, a pennies. It's just the reality of it, and the cost of the show. You and I, are part of the solution is minuscule compared to all the other show costs, from drayage and shipping and just the rental of the floor space plus T&E for their team to go out to it. So it is something that the companies have to take a hard look at. And I think the other the best answer for it is data and measurements. If we can show where their money's coming, or what the results are coming from their investment, then you'll see where they can put better investments going forward. But it's a challenge, and it's an easy position to say, hey, you know, I want a Cadillac, but I was only hoping to spend $5,000 on it. Well, you can get the hood ornament for $5,000, maybe.
Like a 72 Cadillac, it's in the junkyard or something, but you're not going to get the premier. I like the idea of upselling. When I go to McDonald's, it's hard to refuse the apple pies that they throw at you for two for a very limited amount of money. But it is a trend that I'm seeing going on right now, and it's a little bit troubling to try to. I'm imagining for designers to try to come up with some type of solution, especially in our world, of what's going on. But Nicole Kastner reached out to her, Nicola rather, and she is actually going to be coming on our show. Love following her on social media and seeing what she's saying, because she has a grip around what's happening in the event world. Speaking about a grip on the event world, nothing like hearing from Ben Barclay and Emily Olson, who are out there in Vegas this week for CES. Mark took some time to sit down and chat with them to get a report as to what's going on. And there's a lot of good stuff in the content of this interview that's coming up. So let's take a quick time out, come back with the interview with Ben and Emily from Exhibitor Magazine there at CES. We'll do that right after this.
Are you searching for trade show and event products and services? Find It on Exhibitor Exchange is your complete buyer's guide to trade show exhibiting and events, featuring the trade show industry's top exhibit and display providers. Find It on Exhibitor Exchange is the industry's best shopping and commerce resource for buyers and sellers of exhibit and event products and services. Reaching 20,000 exhibit and event buyers in every print issue of Exhibitor Magazine, and 140,000 exhibit and event buyers online each year. Search the listings or list your company today. Learn more at exhibitoronline.com/findit.
Hi, this is Mark Johnson, and today's guest, we're actually speaking with Emily Olson, the editor-in-chief. Is that correct? Is that your title,
Yes.
Emily? For Exhibitor Magazine, and she and Ben Barclay are out here. Ben's one of our senior writers. They're out here doing the coverage of the CES, and we want to give a little highlight with what's coming, because obviously that's one of our big issues early in 2024. But Emily, how's it going? You've been in town now a couple of days.
Yeah, it's been going great, and I'm really excited about this piece that we're working on. Our Best of CES article is always the most popular of the year, so it's really fun to be here and be part of that and work on that. The show's been great, lots of crowds. I haven't seen any official numbers yet, but I know they were anticipating about 130,000, and I would say it's got to be close to that from the lines and the people that I've been seeing.
Yeah, I think the numbers too, from what I've seen, are even higher than, I think they're going to be well over that number. Because like you said, the lines to get into the seminars, I've been sitting in some of the classes over at the Venetian, and it's a line to get in. And then I've also had other meetings outside of town and way out of town in Henderson and Somerville and some of these others. Badges. I mean, there's people that are having to stay way out there or doing activities out there. So
Really?
I'm just thinking there's got to be a bigger number there than we've seen before. Last year was a good show, but I think it's going to be well attended this year. So
Yeah, I'm excited to see when those official numbers come out, what they say.
well, I know you can't give us all the secrets with the best of, but are you seeing some trends already that you guys are finding interesting?
Yeah, we absolutely are. Auto tech is huge on the show floor. That definitely dominates. I think I saw a car in nearly every booth, even in brands that you wouldn't normally associate with autos. So that was really interesting. And the show is fun. There's a lot of excitement and exuberance on the show floor and in a lot of the booth design. For example, SK developed, it's almost like a carnival in their booth. They have what is supposed to be a little roller coaster ride, and there's a lot of fun stuff like that. And then virtual reality, the chairs where they lift you and spin you and turn you. There's that kind of stuff going on, which is really interesting. So the fun is very cool, and it also kind of shows that people are willing to share air and sit next to each other. And the VR headsets are definitely back, and people are willing to share those. You saw a lot of those in booths.
Yeah, I saw, at the Amazon with their new glasses that they're putting out right now, there was no hesitation. People would take a glass, and there might be clearing the lens and put it right back on, or somebody would grab it and go forward. So the germ scare or COVID scare seems to be completely gone. I can't count the number of masks I've seen. I haven't seen very many masks at all.
No.
And everybody seems to be very, engaged. And again, back to the numbers, the number of time I've been run into, people are going through the crowd. So there seems to be a lot of fun with that. It goes, and yeah, you're right. The cars everywhere.
Right?
It's really amazing with what's going on. And you're seeing a little bit of a wink going forward with some of the flying cars. There was a couple of those that they're highlighting too. So
Yes.
it's always a show that's known for its innovation and technology. But as you
Mhm.
mentioned too, I think it's an opportunity that you have to entertain people. It really
Yes.
has to have that element of it. So I'm
Yeah.
glad you guys are seeing some of that as it goes forward.
Yeah, absolutely we are. And then in terms of design, we're definitely seeing some trends. I noticed a lot of backlighting in products, which was really interesting because it really gave you a visual break from the bright show floor. You'd walk into a booth and then the products would be backlit, which was nice. It was a nice way to kind of rest your eyes for a minute. A lot of matte black. Saw a lot of that. Raised show floors, which I know is traditionally a European thing. So I saw a
Mhm.
lot of that. Did you notice that too?
Yeah, I did. That was surprising because, like you said, it's very European.
Mm-hmm.
But for some of the cables they're running, and maybe it's just easier, but I do think it sets you apart. You
Yes.
definitely have to step into it when you go into that. You're making a concerted effort to come into the space.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And a lot of simple design, black walls, white lettering, white lights. I thought that was really interesting as well. And then a lot of fabric walls, which I imagine it has to do with sustainability decisions. Would you agree?
Yes, I think so too. We saw a bunch of that as we were walking today, and it is. It makes the sustainability. It's much more recyclable and reusable. And a lot of them become lightweight also. So if you're
Mhm.
using the metal of aluminum structures,
Yeah.
panels that go around it, it's easier to put the fabric in there, and you can hang it with less weight, and it makes it a little bit easier to do some of the things, and even stack higher as they go forward. And the
Mm-hmm.
size of those panels, I mean, they're getting just
Oh,
huge.
yeah, absolutely they are. Yeah, they're enormous. It's interesting too because they're such a cool way to define space. You can kind of see in, but the space is defined. But when you're actually inside the booth, it really kind of gives it an airy, open feel.
Mhm.
And I thought that was pretty cool. It seemed like some people were doing that also with transparent LED walls, kind of using those to the same effect as the fabric.
Yeah, you saw a little wink of those last year, but I
Okay.
saw much more of those this year,
Yeah.
where you could kind of see through it, and the transparency of those are really, I think, one of the big new products that are coming out through it and such. And even just, I don't know if you went to the Goodrich exhibit, but even tires are becoming innovative.
Yeah.
Something as simple as that was interesting to see how they're highlighting some of those things. So.
Yeah, yeah, and the data and the personalization of technology was all really interesting. It is not going to be easy to choose our best of CES this year. So we're going to have that in our April-May issue, and it's going to be tough. I'm really looking forward to getting the team together and talking through everything that we saw and really choosing what we liked best.
Yeah, this is a team effort. So you guys go and
Yes.
highlight some of them, and then you bring in a group of judges that are supporting you with it and kind of
Mhm.
whittle it down, and then you continue to whittle it down, and then you actually put the awards out for it. So,
Mhm.
correct?
Yes, yes, exactly. And it's really fun to see the excitement when we walk into the booths. People think, oh, they say, oh, we had Best of CES a couple of years ago, and they want to show us around. And it's really nice to see the impact this particular awards program has on the community and our readership.
Yeah, I think it is great. People, even I, would talk to a couple people and ask if you've been around. They're like, "Oh my gosh, yeah, they were just here," and they want to know if I could do anything to help their position. But But again, we want to make sure we're clear. This is not a pay to play.
No,
You guys
absolutely.
weren't given any treats or anything that moved them forward, and I said the same thing to them. So it's kind of interesting to how everybody perceives that. But it
Yeah,
is. It's a coveted award. People
yeah,
really are looking forward to it, and they like to be a part of it. So it's great that you guys are doing that.
yeah.
Anything really different from years past that stood out for you right away, or you see just
Um,
some of the trends we're talking?
yeah, yeah. A lot of the trends that we're talking, the raised flooring, I think, was a big one. It's funny because I'm not used to that, so I did trip a couple of times. A couple of stubbed toes. So that was definitely something that I'm not used to seeing on a show floor in the US.
Another reason for closed-toed shoes on the show floor. You know,
Absolutely.
I'll have to leave those pumps home tomorrow and not wear
Oh
those
yeah.
tomorrow. So,
Footwear is important on the show floor.
yeah. So, Well, good. I appreciate your time. And again, we're really looking forward to the article coming up and the awards. When are the awards actually given out?
We're going to announce it in our April May
April,
issue,
May?
and then we're going to
Okay.
have a webinar as well, talking about them
Perfect.
and showing photos and video that we're taking while we're here.
Good.
Yeah.
Well, again, I know you guys are working long hours trying to
Yeah.
touch everything. It's everywhere in town, so it's hard to cover everything that's happening with it. But appreciate you guys' effort and look forward to seeing the magazine.
Thank you. Thanks.
An interesting discussion about CES with Mark Johnson and Emily Olson from the Exhibitor Group and Exhibitor Magazine. We're going to take a quick break and come back and wrap things up, talk a little more about Exhibitor Live, the latest on that. Also, a big announcement from WS and what we're doing there. Also, some extra topics of interest that came along right here at recording time. So we'll take a quick break and come back and wrap things up after this. Attention, trade show and event marketing professionals. Are you ready to take your face-to-face marketing expertise to the next level? Join more than 3,000 candidates currently enrolled in Exhibitor Group's Certified Trade Show Marketer Program. CTSM is corporate America's top source of the industry's best trade show and corporate event training. CTSM certified trade show marketers enjoy expanded career opportunities, greater respect and authority in their organizations, and earn higher salaries than their acronym-free peers. Learn more, earn more. Visit ctsm.com today.
Yeah, what a great interview with Emily and Ben. Ben was in the interview, but he gave Emily the camera position. The two of them had put together their notes and talked about it, but we were just trying to make one use of the camera. But, I just really enjoy both of them. And Charles, our whole staff that we have on the editorial team right now, along with all of our freelance writers and the people that are working with it. We have a lot of new people on there, but just the quality of these people and the quality of their content, their vision, their history, they're just a gem to work with. And their insights. So they saw some really great things there, as you heard in the interview. There's some new things that are coming up with here at Live at CES, and you'll see it live as we continue to bring some of that going forward. But we're excited about the Best of CES edition coming out in April. So should be good.
That was great. I took a ton of notes of what you guys talked about. The design aspect of the interview and what you saw there was really interesting, especially the transparency of the LED panels. That's becoming a hot topic right now, that you're able to see through that dimension and yet see the information. That's genius. The I guess the element behind that is taking a mesh and putting it on top of any kind of clear substrate and then programming it. So it's not rocket science, but it does have a pretty cool effect. As you and I were talking off mic a minute ago, the biggest thing I've seen in all the social media was the apparel choices of people, and now comfort seems to be at the very top of where this goes. I saw men, obviously sport coat, open collar, handkerchief to prep it up a little bit, but then tennis shoes. The white tennis shoes were dominant. Even people on stage who were presenting had these tennis shoes on. So everything's about the element of comfort, but yet professional, the new business casual, if you will, as you and I were talking about. That seems to be what's happening in 2024 from my standpoint.
Yeah, I think that, and I like it because, for a while when you looked at it, it was everybody trying to be hip and cool with black t-shirts. And that to me just wasn't that professional element that went with it. So this is a step back in the right direction. And as we've talked about before, the world has a tendency to be a pendulum. So it probably won't be too long when we'll be back to actually jackets and ties. And that'll be the professional look we'll see. But this comfort one is still really looking good. The other thing that I really saw, and I think that stands out the most here at CES, is you've got to control your environment for all senses. So some of the exhibits that really control the sound, there's some of them that you go to that just deaden all the other noise around you, and they control it on that area. The raised floor allow you to do some of those things. Light, smell, all of those are coming into play. But then that goes back to our other question. You can't do that with a limited budget. It's going to cost more to control more of it, but it truly sets you apart. And the ones that stand out are doing, you got to learn to zig when the others are zagging in some ways and do it in a very high level way. So
It'll be interesting to see what we can bring out of CES to Exhibitor Live. A lot of experiential should be a part of this show. I know ourselves, we are announcing today that we're actually doing a couple of things. We're doing a seminar the day before the show opens. It's a boot camp that WS is doing, but then we're turning around in the booth and we have contracted with a professional line dance instructor in Nashville, which everybody knows line dance is the boss there at all those bars downtown. So we're going to bring a little bit of that element to the show floor, and he's going to instruct people at the top of the hour for 15 minutes on the latest line dances. So everybody is interactive, being a part of the show, being a part of staying moving, and just doing something a little different. And I think that's what hopefully all the other exhibitors, Mark, who are coming to Nashville, will bring a taste of that with them and do something different as well.
Yeah, we really want to encourage more of that. And let's stay the theme as you're doing there with the location. That's the experiential that our customers, our end customers are looking for. And I think we shared this at one of the other podcasts, but one of the surprising things that came to me from the survey from last year's show, there's a lot of big corporations, CTSM graduates and students going through it that walked on the show floor and deselected a partner because of how they were showing up at live. And the message we got was they're not doing what we're being instructed to do. They're not showing up in the experiential area. They're doing trade show 1960, sitting in the booth and waiting for somebody to come in. And I think it's a good lesson for all of us. And I commend you guys for doing that and bringing it into play. And there's other companies that do a great job of that. And I think we, as an industry, owe that to our end customers to show up that way. And at Live, we're trying to do some things with it too. Because of music, we're playing with some of the music too. So I don't know if I'm spilling any beans, but you might want to practice your footwork because we're going to have a couple of those big Tom Hanks keyboards from the movie Big that you can actually do a little keyboard work with your feet as you dance your way across the keyboard. So we got some interaction stuff coming forward. And as again, we do have our buddy Jim Gilmore is our chief experiential architect, and he's working with the team on every element that we can try to bring it into play. Some things are future ideas because we're only handcuffed on what we can do right now in this location. But the other thing is we are ready to announce the next 3 years. So they'll be seeing that real soon on where the locations are. So you and your team and all the people coming to the show will have plenty of time to plan and coordinate not only the location and the dates, but like you said, the experience. What do you want to do to really drive the experience for it? So we're excited about it. The numbers continue to go better and better every day. And we also know that unfortunately in our industry and as conferences, a lot of those signups are really in the last few weeks. So we're going to be even more surprised, I think, with the numbers because we've shared that for the students, we're on track to exceed the 2018 numbers, which was one of our high water marks in the, for live. So we're excited about that, and it's going to be a fun event. It's surprised it's getting closer. It's just a few weeks away.
It's all about being unique, and that's the underlying aspect of experiential. You want to be unique for your attendees that are coming there to give them a memorable experience to remember your brand and your products and services. Speaking of different and unique, we'll wrap up with this. The Orange County Convention Center, as everybody knows in Orlando, has announced that they are going to be implementing for their staff AI-informed moonwalkers. Mark, you said you've seen this before. And basically, it allows them to walk at the speed of a run, up to 3 times faster with a top speed of 7 miles per hour, and will make them more efficient on and around the show floor. We got roller derby coming to our industry now, to the show. What are your thoughts on that?
I think there's some applications for that where that would really work well, but it works best when I saw it going straight. But when you have to make a turn or deviate or stop, you're going to have to get a little skilled on it. And, there's a reason we don't have skateboards and some of those other things across the show floor. There's a group of people and there's a risk that goes with it. I think we're all trying to do things at a better and faster pace and more improved, but it'll be interesting to see. I commend them for trying it and see what goes on with it. But I don't think my HR department would allow me to do that.
Well, so here's your tip from your Uncle Mike. If you're going to do a show in Orlando this year, suit up with pads and protection gear because you might get a little more experience than you bargained for from the Exhibitor Now podcast.
And remember,
The Exhibitor Now podcast. Give us 30 minutes, and we'll give you everything you need to know now.